What is going on, YouTube? Today I'm working on a custom Nova Wagon. And yes, I bought this entire 5 pack for one car, which you guys all feel my pain. You've all been there. So, anyway, this is going to be the candidate. If you guys have watched some of my King of the Hill tournaments, there's a Nova Wagon identical to this one that runs in there quite a bit and typically makes it to the final four. So, pretty fast casting. My plan for this one is to make it more for the track than for show. So I'm going to be focusing on adding weight, working on the tires, but still giving it a pretty cool paint job. I'm a huge fan of the 60s Novas. My first car was actually a 62 Chevy Nova Coupe. So I got a special place in my heart for these Novas. And hopefully being right out of the box, the wheels and body and everything should be in fantastic condition, and I won't have to do a whole lot of sanding or work on the body to get it looking good. I do like the paint job on this though, so that is kind of cool, but I think we can make it better. Before we get going, I want to see how much this thing weighs in its original condition, which is 34.8 grams, so not that heavy. We'll weigh it afterwards and see how much I actually get to add to it. First things first, let's drill out these posts. I always start with a small drill bit to start the guide hole. I've tried to do it without the guide hole in the past, and it just doesn't work very well. So if you're going to be customizing these, it's always a good idea to start with the guide hole first. Once we get the post all drilled out, it's time for disassembly. One of the reasons I thought this would be a good custom for the track is because I thought there'd be quite a bit of room to add some weight to it, which we'll play around with later and see how much we can actually add to it. But here it is, all taken apart. And to remove the wheels and axles, just clip the tabs. I typically don't clip the tabs all the way at the bottom. I'll just clip enough to get the wheels and axles out because I still want them there to help hold the wheels and axles in once I glue them back in. But what I've also done is also bent the tabs back, and then when I put the wheels and axles back in, bend them back in to help hold the wheels and axles in place. I'm not planning on doing a wheel swap on these, as the wheelbase is pretty narrow and the wheels sit up inside the body of the car, so it might be difficult to find the right length, and I'll just work with these and try and make them as fast as I can. Before stripping the paint, I like to make sure the screws all fit. These are self-tapping screws, so the metal in the screws is harder than the diecast, and as long as you have enough meat left in the post, shouldn't be any problems. Time to strip the paint. I use citrus strip. It says it's safer. I don't know if it actually is, but I've never had a problem with it, and it does a really good job. As you can see here, the citrus strip worked really well and even got most of the paint out of the door lines and seams and everything, so I'm very happy with this product. I found this stuff at AutoZone and thought I'd give it a crack and see how it does. And it actually turned out pretty good. This stuff goes right on the metal, so there was no primer, no anything. And it did a really good job. I was very impressed with it. Only thing I was upset about is the nozzle ended up breaking and leaking all over the place. And I actually had to decant this stuff, but it worked really well. And I'll probably use this Duplicolor metal specs again. They make a couple different colors. I've only tried out the blue, but I think they make a red and a couple different colors that I'll eventually try out. My plan was to make this a supernova, if you will, and give it a super sport paint job. Never seen a Nova wagon with a super sport paint job, so I thought this would be a pretty cool idea, as long as I don't ruin the paint when I take the tape off. I was worried about the tape absorbing the paint and then it bleeding into the blue, so I didn't wait very long after painting this to remove the tape. I had to be really careful where I held on the car when I removed the tape because I didn't want to ruin the entire paint job. But I thought it turned out fantastic. That blue and the silver work really well together, and that silver paint's just Krylon aluminum metallic, and went on smooth, and I really couldn't be happier with it. Oh, removing this tape was so stressful. I thought I was going to ruin the entire car by grabbing it in the wrong spot, or that the tape didn't seal it off the way I wanted it to, but the tape actually worked fantastic. I got the lines and even the Super Sport stripes as even as I could, and I think it all turned out really well. And something I learned doing this one is if you're going to tape something off, make sure you leave a tab that's easily accessible so you can pull it off without having to manipulate the car too much. Like this one, I wrapped it around and it was kind of a pain in the butt to get it off, and I had to be a little bit rough with it, more so than I wanted it to be. And I put a few little scratches into the paint that I didn't want, but it was a good learning experience for me. Leave some tabs that you can easily grab onto. And I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out. I think the blue stripes will go good with the blue windshield. I let the paint dry for about 24 hours, and then I sprayed it with a clear coat. I used Tester's spray lacquer. It goes on incredibly well. I've used it several times, and I've noticed that if I use a little bit heavier coat, it dries very smooth, and went on really well here. After letting the clear coat dry for about 24 hours, I put it all back together, and I'm incredibly happy with how it turned out. I think the car looks really good. There's a few imperfections, like in the back window, and there's a little scratch on the driver door, but I'm very happy with it. I think it turned out really well. And if you take a quick look through that back window, you may see some added weight. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I can't give you all my secrets. This is gonna go down the track and race for the cars, so I can't reveal everything. So this thing weighed 34 grams when we started. Let's see what it weighs now. 161.5. So I'd say there's a little bit of weight added. Once I got it all put together, I wasn't totally sold on the red rims, so I decided to paint them blue to match the Super Sport stripes. But that paint is designed to go over metallic, and it just kind of made it a dark blue, but I still think it looks pretty cool, especially when the light hits it just right. The blue kind of shines through. What I should have done is maybe get a chrome pen, went over the red, and then put the blue over the chrome. And it probably would have stood out a little bit more. But I do kind of like it. They look like black wall tires until the light hits them and you can see the blue on there. So it's kind of neat. It actually turned out pretty well. This was a fun little project. And there are a few little imperfections in the paint, kind of where I was grabbing onto the car to get the tape removed. But ultimately, this thing's going down the track, and it should get beat up pretty good along the way. So I'm not going to take the time to repaint it. I'll do it when its racing career is all over with. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below with what you think, and we'll see you on the next one.